must be critical and normative, not merely descriptive and comparative. Religion must put on trial. So what philosophy of religion is actually trying to do is to do a critical evaluation, not critical study only, but critical evaluation of religion. And as Ambedkar says that they put, philosophers of religion put that religion particularly on the trial. That is what the critical approach is. Then practical focus, that it examines religious traditions, worldviews, secular naturalism, secularism or naturalism, and broader significance of historical events. So this is overall what, in nutshell, what philosophy of religion means. So Mahatma Gandhi and Mahatma Phule and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar are two giants of Indian thought. Their birth and lifespan is given there. So key words and key works of them are like Gulamgiri, which was published in 1873. Then Sarvajanik Satya Dharma was published in 1891. In 1973 only, Mahatma Phule has published a very wonderful article which is absolutely anthropological, where he claims the Aryan invasion theory, and he has given many references of Dane scholars who were arguing for Aryan invasion theory, and continuously anthropology, sociology, history are working on, and archaeology also working on anthropological theories, and later on it has been developed at a different terrain. Today the notion of an Aryan invasion is totally different, but at that time that was the beginning maybe of the Aryan invasion theory being adopted by any Indians. And that article is written in English, very wonderful English. What is his method in nutshell? Deterritorialization and re-territorialization of myth. These are two words I have borrowed from Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, who are the French philosophers. Then what are the criteria he has used for the doing philosophy of religion? I told you that it's a critical approach, and for having a critical approach, you need to have some criteria for doing critique. Critique for the sake of critique is never adopted by such scholars. Critique with some intention, some purpose, with some criteria is adopted. So it's a Satya, Sarvajanik Satya Dharma. So what does it mean by Satya? Truth, equality and justice. He has built Sarvajanik Satya Dharma. Then Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, his key work, Philosophy of Hinduism and Buddha and his Dhamma, those are referred in this presentation. So what is his method? It's very critical and normative, and I'm not the one who is claiming that it's a critical and normative. He himself has clarified it in Philosophy of Hinduism in the beginning of that text. Which are the criteria? Utility and justice are the criteria which he has used, and very wonderfully with the anthropological analysis he has arrived on this criteria. These criteria are not taken from any European kind of notion or any movement, but this criteria he has shown that how in the human society itself those have been evolved, and why should we adopt those criteria. Then he has adopted Buddhism. Phule's method is, as I told, deterritorialization and re-territorialization. What is it? How deterritorialization is happening? He critiqued Brahminic mythology using Aryan invasion theory, and he has given the reference of this scholar Pritchard. And I have searched his profile, and he was a very popular scholar working on Indology and archaeology. And his work Phule happened to read, and then he has developed his entire vision on the basis of Aryan invasion theory, and on the basis of that he demythicized Vaishnavism and exposed it as a political conquest of ideology. So understanding of Vaishnavism is very important, because Vaishnavism has always worked for assimilation of different tribes, and it has achieved a grand success even today. Okay, and in what way it has achieved a grand success? That is, do it in a different way, but that has been challenged very strongly by Mahatma Phule with the help of acumenship of this Aryan invasion theory, and he has demythicized, and he has shown that it's all political agenda of some mainstream people and upper class to dominate the indigenous people. He decoded Vishnu's avatar as stories of Aryan versus indigenous conflict. Okay, all his avatar, like first avatars are avatar Matsya, Kachcha and Varaha. These three avatars has been criticized by Phule, and shown that those are just symbolic remnants of the conflict between the invaders and the invaded. Dismantle divine legitimacy of caste hierarchy. Then he has used the criterion of Satya, truth, reason and equality, and he has used those truth, reason and equality throughout his, throughout his writings. So he has done that on a destructive side, we can say. Anubhaya and Vikshepa, we always say that he has done Vikshepa. He has interfered into the entire, politics of Hinduism in a way, with the help of, reinterpretation of mythologies. Then he has re-territorialized the indigenous people. He reclaimed folk gods. His understanding, he has given an alternative, religion, sort of. He reclaimed folk gods like Khandoba, Jyotiba, Vithoba. I will not go into that detail because those are available in his writing. He reimagined Baliraja's golden kingdom as pre-Aryan India. So pre-Aryan India was Balistana, everything was very wonderful. We all were ruling our own India, but then invader comes and then he started. So this is what he has interpreted. Counter mythology. He has given counter mythology like Khandoba as a warrior, a governor, and a just King Bali. And he has given entire, governance and all the offices of Khandoba in his, writings. So political mobilization of Shudra and Ati Shudra communities. What was his intention? It was very focused one. He wanted to mobilize politically Shudras and Ati Shudras. His economical thoughts are also ahead of time. At that time, people were not able to understand the economical thoughts which Phule was telling to the community of, Shudras and Ati Shudras. He told community, your God is yours, not Brahmanic not Brahmanic scriptures. And he has criticized the Brahmanic scriptures because the Brahmanism, the source of Brahmanism is scripture and then the ritualism. So he has heavily criticized that. So what is deterritorialization? Deterritorialization means, sending these narratives away from the minds of indigenous people and reclaiming their earlier, history, and that is how he give rise to the self-respect among the Shudras and Adi Shudras. Then Phule's constructive religion is the Sarvajanik Satya Dharma, which has been published after his death. He talks about Nirmika. He has given a different notion of religion. He is not only criticizing the Hinduism, but he has given a different religion, which is Sarvajanik Satya Dharma. Satya Shodhak Samaj is also one of the offshoot of it. Nirmika, he has adopted, he replaced the idea of the Ishvara or God or Brahma by his own idea of Nirmika. The one rational, loving and impartial God. He does not prefer any caste. He does not require any priestly agent. All human are God's equal children according to that Nirmika, and that is how he ended up developing monotheism and political claim. No books in his religion are required like Vedas, Bible, Purana, and the truth and reason are the final authority. Your own reason, human reason is the final authority and not the scriptures. Otherwise, the scriptures are and the priests are the final authorities in other religion. Religion must be compatible with the science and education. No priestly intermediary, direct personal communion with God. Every individual, Brahman and Shudra, man or woman, stand equal before God. No gatekeeper. People claim that he has borrowed this idea from Christianity, but yes, but that was the requirement of the time. Even now, it is highly required. So equality as theology. Caste and gender equality made a religious obligation, not just a political demand. All women included, Shudrati Shudra, equal rights for all. So Thomas Paine, rights of man and subjugation of woman and all those, literature of the European scholars have been accessed by Mahatma Phule, and then he has definitely thought that that project can be rolled out in India. So, priest-free ceremony. He has also advocated ceremonies in Sarvajanik Satya Dharma, but those ceremony doesn't require any priest. Like Satya Shodhak weddings, you might have also heard about the Satya Shodhak type of wedding. They have their own methodology, but no priest is required. And it is Sarvajanik. Sarvajanik is considered as a universal religion, and Linderley in his book has used this idea of universal humanism is advocated by Mahatma Phule, but I have a different opinion that Sarvajanik doesn't mean universal merely. Universal again, what can say, decreases the real power of the notion of Sarvajanik of that time. Sarvajanik means public, available for everyone. And the public in that context, in the backdrop of post-Peshwa period in Pune, the public was, that notion of public, Sarvajanik, had different rigor. Otherwise, Mahatma Phule himself have used the Vaishvik Dharma. He doesn't use Vaishvik or Vishwa as such. He is using Sarvajanik. And I think Linderley might have, gone through the articles by Lakshman Shastri Joshi, because in a way he was a follower of M.N. Roy, and at that time humanism, radical humanism was quite talk of the town. But anyway, this is what the alternative which Mahatma Phule has provided. Now let us summarize what Phule did as a destructive versus constructive canon, like deterritorialization and reterritorialization. So on the dimension of God, he has totally rejected Hindu gods, and he has shown that with the help of his interpretation, whether those interpretations are compatible or will stand on the evidence of science or not, that is left with you, the future student of anthropology. So you can definitely cross-check with your contemporary scientific knowledge, but he has reinterpreted and shown that all Hindu gods are political kind of a domination, and all those stories are the stories of political domination of indigenous people. And he has given alternative on the constructive faith, that is a Satya Dharma, Nirmika, one rational and impartial creator. Then as a sacred text, Vedas and Manusmritis are tools of operations. So very heavily those have been criticized by Phule and Ambedkar, and Ambedkar has burned the Manusmriti, and Phule has shown how these texts are oppressive. No book is God ordained, reason rules. That is his constructive side. So then caste, on the front of caste, he says those are all artificial, those are all man-made, those are all politically motivated, and we should give up them. He raises the question that how can an occupation become a varna? That's his precise question. Occupation is a professional means of livelihood, and how that can become a varna, and this is absolutely wrong according to him, and that is the tool of operation. All are equal children of creator. So priesthood, he says that priests are the agents of Aryan exploitation, and that exploitation is continued. So you have to abandon them, and he has used extremely abusive language, and his followers have gone much ahead beyond all the limits of using, like Javalkars, who were the real enemies of that text, if you look. And no intermediary between human and God, not required. Rituals are empty. Those are superstitious, used to extract wealth. He has shown a clear-cut, economical exploitation out of rituals. How indigenous people have madly following, and now they have been, maddened by all these priests. And he has shown that, you are being impoverished because of these superstitions and rituals. So simple, meaningful, priest-free ceremonies have been advocated by Sarvajanik Satya Dharma. He has used historical materialist deconstruction method, and given ethical monotheism and rational theology. So historical materialist, historical means he has reinterpreted the entire history of Aryan invasion. It must be considered as an anthropological understanding of the society and the operation of the source of operation of the society and the conflict in the society. And it is also deconstruction to only a methodological level. Because when we use the word deconstruction, we have to use it carefully, because deconstruction has been widely adopted by Jacques Derrida and Michel Foucault under the influence of Nietzsche. Okay, so but then why I am giving this warning of the deconstruction? Because we immediately get attracted towards that methodology. It's very wonderful and very lucrative methodology, but there is a problem of going towards nihilism. Definitely these two people, these giants, Phule and Ambedkar, had used the method of deconstruction. They were not trained in the deconstruction because Nietzsche was alive. Nietzsche, might be alive at that time, but Derrida and Michel Foucault, they didn't have any interaction with them. But we find some similarity of their deconstruction. But there is they are directly going toward nihilism, to Derrida and Michel Foucault. They embraces nihilism as their metaphysical last stand, whereas Phule and Ambedkar never wanted nihilism. They were foundational modernist. Okay? And that can be critical. Foundationalism and foundational modernism is also being criticized heavily in the Europe, but their context is totally different. these people wanted to re-territorialize, because deconstruction is only deterritorialization. It doesn't reclaim your past. It doesn't reclaim anything. Why we want to deterritorialization? Because we want to remove evils of the society, and we have to re-territorialize. We have to reclaim our own land. So they are not nihilist if we are using the notion of deconstruction. So now let us go to the Ambedkar's methodology and Ambedkar's philosophy of religion. So Ambedkar is very Dr. Ambedkar is very kind in his writing, because he doesn't give any encryption. He doesn't hide anything. He writes very clearly. We have to read it very patiently and peacefully. Then we understand it. So in philosophy of Hinduism, he has given the entire discussion of philosophy, then religion, then theology, then anthropology, and then he comes to the point that which critical methodology he is using. So he has defined religion first. He says that the theology, it's very difficult, when we talk about the philosophy of religion, he says that the two stumbling blocks are there. First is philosophy and second is religion. How to understand them. If philosophy is synoptic view of the nature, or synoptic view of the thing, like that is what the Plato's notion of philosophy is, that you go to the essence of everything and you go to the ideas. That is the method of philosophy. He says if we adopt that method of philosophy, then religion is not a thing which is static. You can have an essence of a static thing. If something is continuously changing, then you cannot have essence of it. So he says that these are two stumbling blocks. He has exposed the problem very clearly, and then he has gone to his critical methodology. So study the ideal scheme of religion stand for its growth from primitive prayers to metaphysical abstraction. Manusmriti used to explore Hinduism. Okay, so he says he has like in the beginning of philosophy of Hinduism, you will find a lot of writing is on the origin and development and modification of the very idea of religion, which is anthropological discussion according to me. You are the better anthropologist who can judge it, but it is not historical, it is not philosophical. So some different interdisciplinary approach he has used. Then criterion for judgment: adopt norms to judge and value religious schemes. Religion must be put on the trial, and he has used two criteria for putting religion on trial. And Ambedkar rejected the comparative religion as living false equivalence. Not all religions are equally good. He says that the comparative religion is not what he wanted to do. He necessarily wanted to do philosophy of religion. Why not comparative religion? Because comparative religion was also very popular subject on European and then university structures. He says that comparative religion presupposes that all religions are good. They are equally good. Therefore, we can have comparison between them. But he says that might be a secular approach. But he says my approach won't be like that at all. I want necessarily a critical approach, and I want to necessarily evaluate any religion I want to do. And he has evaluated all the religions, not only Hinduism for that matter, but he has written more on Hinduism because it was a mainstream religion and a lot of evils were associated with that. So how he has evolved these two criteria? Before going to these slides, I would tell you that you must read how he has evolved. He has shown like the development of savage society. Then one scientific revolution took place. Then savage society was dissociated from the civilized society on the issue of religion. Then again second scientific revolution took place, and then this civilized society split into antique society and modern society. And he shown that antique society still continued on the basis of the very evaluative criterion, that is utility, and modern society is being run on the very important criteria, that is justice. And that is how he has what we can say he has excavated the utility and justice as a criterion for the evaluation. And why he has used this criteria, why he has found this criteria in his discussion to do philosophy of religion. He wanted to do philosophy of religion in a critical way, and he says that for critics' sake is not what I am going to do. I want a certain criteria on the basis of which I can do critique. Critique means evaluation, critique means reinterpretation, but some criteria has to be there. So he says that utility and justice are the best criteria. We always talk about why I always emphasize upon justice and utility, because whenever we utter the name of Ambedkar, we immediately imagine equality, fraternity and liberty. Okay. But the genesis of equality, fraternity, liberty, the trinity, is these two important principles. And if we don't focus on this important principle, because liberty, equality and fraternity, how much you explore them, you have a lot to explore on the issue of justice. You have a lot to explore on the issue of utility. So that domain is always escaped from the students of these two scholars. So definitely utility. He never hesitated to cite a name of the scholar. Okay, he has in the footnote he shows that J.S. Mill has written a chapter having a title Justice and Utility in his very celebrated text Utilitarianism. So from there he says he is taking this idea, but he has shown how it has been evolved anthropologically through the history. So rooted in J.S. Mill's utilitarianism, maximizing collective good and minimizing suffering. Utility means suffering is equal form of evil, good is equal to utility. It protects the rights because rights increases goodness in the long run. And then life being equal, value of utility must be equal. Utility gives rise to liberty for all equally. Now come to justice. He says justice means nothing more than liberty plus equality plus fraternity. So this is the definition he gives. Justice is equal to liberty, equality, fraternity. Now this definition, this concept justice is defined with three other concepts. Okay. So we need a lot of intellectual exercise to understand the relationship between these two. So all men share the same essence, the equal rights. So equality, permanent social relationship imposed at all times. So his idea of social endosmosis. So this endosmosis is the idea which he has picked up from the biology, botany I think. So that endosmosis, what is social endosmosis? We should talk about that, and the student of anthropology are better equipped to know what is social endosmosis. So his idea of equality and fraternity is a social endosmosis. It prevents anarchy, fraternity prevents anarchy. So like I was telling you that anarchy and nihilism are not what they are aiming for. They want law and order with the with the help of equality, fraternity and justice. And impartiality, definitely equality enters as a component part of justice. So Ambedkar's 10 charges on Hinduism. So I am having a model like destructive canon and constructive canon, deterritorialization and reterritorialization. So here Ambedkar is deterritorializing the mainstream and reclaiming our own identity and dignity in Buddhism. So what is his destructive canon? I am not claiming this is a deconstructive canon, but it is destructive canon, this is the essential features of philosophy of Hinduism written by him. Refuses trial. He says that Hinduism is not open for any trial. He said that I will accept that religion which is open for trial. But as far as the Hinduism concerned, the scripture says that it is not open for any test or any trial. Total control. Hinduism regulates every act of Hindu life. No room from individual choice, because right from birth, like 16 samskara, 16 samskara you might have heard. Right from your birth, even before your birth, the religion has something to do with your life. So it has full control. It has full control on scientific knowledge. It has full control on law, order, everything. It denies liberty. Like these are the Ambedkar's opinion and views. You may differ with him and you can engage with him and his opinion. It denies liberty. Does not allow free choice of vocation or life path. So we know that Varna Vyavastha was there, caste system was there. So there was no free choice for vocation or occupation. It denies equality, that we all know. It lacks fraternity, promotes Brahman-centric individualism over concern for all. Then moral stagnation. Ambedkar's actual critique of Hinduism was the moral critique. Okay? Moral stagnation was there according to him. Customary morality lacks sincerity and blocks moral progress. He has very interestingly shown that what you call Hindu morality is not a morality at all. It is Hindu law. You need to understand law and morality. And later on he talks about the rules and laws. Mixes law and religion. Manusmriti makes rigid social laws appear divinely sanctioned promotes asceticism. Ambedkar was against asceticism, against sannyasavad, and that he mentioned clearly in Buddha and his Dhamma. Superman ethics. So here Ambedkar criticized the power and the vision and the horizon and the scope of Ambedkar's intellectual activism was very wide. He has criticized Nietzsche on this point. Recently, somebody has published, I have seen on social media, comparison of Nietzsche and Ambedkar. But he has, very significantly and symbolically criticized Nietzsche. Why? Because Nietzsche talked about the Superman's ethics, and Ambedkar was not willing to go with the Superman ethics. So fails both criteria, neither maximization of collective good nor upholding individual rights. So utilitarianism or utility is not there. So this is the destructive canon. This is deterritorialization. But this deterritorialization is very different. Phule has given a counter narrative, counter religion and counter mythology. Whereas Ambedkar is not doing that. Ambedkar is doing this in a very philosophical way and in a very conceptual way. Then he has reinterpreted now let us go to the constructive canon. This is, this slides and this presentation is from Buddha and his Dhamma. We know that he has reinterpreted Siddhartha's entire story of life, which has been, advocated by the mainstream Buddhism, and he has, in a way, humanized the Gautam Buddha's, understanding. Then he talks about Dhamma, Adhamma, and Saddhamma. In Adhamma, belief in supernatural is Adhamma, which is not Dhamma. And before going to this discussion, I'd like to tell you that he defined Dhamma. He rejected Dharma. Dharma is law according to him. Dhamma is morality according to him. He makes a very simple equation. Dhamma means morality, morality means Dharma. That's all. You don't need to go deeper into what is Dharma. It is not mystified at all. He has demystified the notion of Dhamma itself. Maybe in mainstream, traditional Buddhism, Dhamma might have different meaning. Like Dharma has many meanings in Sanatana system, but he has made it very clear that Dhamma means morality, morality means Dharma. No further mystification of the notion of Dhamma. So he says that belief in supernatural is Adhamma, immoral, non-scientific and non-being dogmatic belief is also Adhamma. No use of critical thinking is also Adhamma. Absolute submission without evaluation. Knowledge not empirically verifiable. Treating any knowledge as complete, final. Mere preservation of bookish knowledge. Speculative cosmology, origin of universe and everything. This is all Adhamma. So irrationality. This is all a list of irrational activities, isn't it? Irrationality is Adhamma. Irrationality is immorality. So morality is always rational, but we never claim that irrationality is immorality. But he has shown that according to Buddha and his Dhamma, according to Dhamma Navayana, few people are saying, what is immorality? Immorality is conceptual. Immorality is your ignorance and your way of surrendering your brain. Then what is Dharma? Purity of body, speech and mind. Samyak, those Ashtangika Marga. Abstaining purity not in a very mythological sense or not very divine sense. Abstaining purity from moral point of view. Abstaining from taking life, lying and lust. Controlling passion, not mortification of the passion. So in sannyasa, what you do is mortification. Therefore he says that I am not advocating mortification, I don't accept it. So controlling and regulating your passion is important. Impermanence being is becoming. It's very philosophically loaded sentence, okay? So I'll not stay more on that. Being is becoming, because entire continental philosophy is based upon being is becoming and becoming is being. Like right from Nietzsche, Heidegger, Sartre, Derrida, many people are there, Deleuze and everything. He was, being non-creationist is Dhamma. That means you should not believe that this world is created by God. So that is the meaning of being non-creationist. Karma as an instrument of moral order, eightfold path leads to the Nibbana, rational, empirical and open to question. Your morality is being asserted if you are open to the questions. If you are not open to the questions, you are immoral. Understand the idea of morality. Okay? We many times talk about the public sphere and late what is his name? Who talks about the public? He had died recently. But then the possibility of a public sphere should be worked out, and Ambedkar has done that much before European scholars. Saddhamma cleanses mind of impurities, build kingdom of righteousness. So this kingdom of righteousness is one of the ideas that has been advocated by Immanuel Kant, and Immanuel Kant is one of the very most celebrated, I would say, philosophers of West. So it equates with that, the prajna, wisdom open to all, sila, righteous moral conduct, karuna, compassion to the sufferings, maitri, universal love, cosmocentric, not just anthropocentric. And what important is that, like, when we talk about, many times we think that Phule and Ambedkar are humanists, they are Manavtavadi. But there is a flaw in Manavtavad. Recently we have come across that, and environmentalists have criticized this Manavtavad, that you put human being the center of the universe. But if you find, before environmentalist argument came, Phule and Ambedkar were working, but they never believed that the man is the measure of everything. They have given equal importance to the nation, to the nature, animals. You find that in Phule's writings. And man is not the only supreme authority of this universe. His reason might be. Now karma, the notion of karma is also reinterpreted. Brahmanic karma says that it's based on soul, and it also talks about the rebirth and everything. Whereas the Dhamma's notion of karma, according to Ambedkar, it is an instrument of moral order. He hasn't rejected karma theory. He has reinterpreted and re-established the karma theory, re-territorialized the karma theory, we would say. Universal and inevitable, like rotation of seasons. It is, karma is like moral order, rest on man and not on God at all. It is a kushala karma, it's a good moral order. A kushala karma is a bad moral order. The freed from, you can have multiple examples of it. I will not go to that direction. Freed from divine authority. So traditional karma theory is associated with the divine authority. We have always unconscious idea of transcendent. Some transcendent authority might be there, and which might be ruling and controlling the action and everything. So he says that is not at all existing. It's blind belief, and if you are following that blind belief, you are doing immorality. So he says that there is no divine authority, and this karma is life-oriented, not authority-oriented morality. Whereas the traditional notion of Brahmanic karma was unscientific. Then it talks about the divine karmas and invented to escape responsibility of poverty. He says that the responsibility towards the poor and responsibility towards weaker is very important, which is being escaped by traditional notion of karma. Then he also reinterpreted rebirth, that is scientific materialist. He has given scientific materialist interpretation of it. It's very interesting. One need time to understand what he is talking about. The rebirth in Buddha and his Dharma. He says that the rebirth of what and rebirth of whom are two important questions. And rebirth of what, it aligns with the physics conservation of matter. Okay? He has well aware and well equipped with the then scientific development. And then rebirth of whom, there he aligns with the physics conservation of energy. And he makes that explicit in his Buddha and his Dharma. So how, I find another very interesting smartness in Ambedkar's philosophy. He has adopted definitely scientificism, but he has not gone to the extreme of scientificism. Every truth is not being told by science. This was presupposed by Ambedkar. Though truth is being told by science, but in the social domain, you have to remodify. You have to give some space for the irrationality, like your devotion. Your commitment toward the poor, your commitment toward the weaker will not be guided by the scientific approach only. So science may give you a laws of nature and not the laws of human being. Laws of human being have to be evolved on the basis of rationality and on the basis of your emotion. Okay. And if you have another very critical reading of Ambedkar, putting love at the center, then you will find that Ambedkar is talking how to love your society, nothing else. How to be, very emotional with your society. But he explicitly doesn't write that. It is implicit in his writing. Then he has also reinterpreted Nibbana. This is the constructive side, state of living. He says that it is a state of living and not escaping the life. Three passions to control: lobha, dosha, hatred, and moha, ignorance, has to be controlled. Nibbana is not post-date or otherworldly. Nirvana, which we call, is always associated with emancipation, liberation, or something like salvation. That is what the traditional idea of nirvana is, but he has not accepted that. It is not yogic dissociation from the world at all. It is not temporary samadhi or vipassana. It is not absolute eradication of passions. Okay, passions are going to be there. If you try to eradicate your passion, your life will be finished. You will embrace the death, because your survival means you are having passion, but the regulation of passion is what important. So he says what Nibbana is, it is achieved in this life, not other life, while living. Enough control over passion to walk righteously. Okay, you have to control your ego. You have to develop your ability to do good work. So Nibbana is equal another name for righteous life, achieved through the eightfold path. Okay, Ashtangika, Arya Ashtangika Marga. Nibbana means release from passion. Okay? It's a release from passion. So this domain, this terrain of Ambedkar has to be understood properly. In the entire, what can I say, entire rush for activism, we forget this. So my message to activists is that what he is talking about, Nibbana, one should understand that, because you are continuously struggling, you are continuously fighting against something, but you can still explore peace of your mind with the notion of, because otherwise you would have never written Buddha and his Dhamma. He wanted to give an alternative. If he is giving an alternative religion, that means this type of mental peace, psychological peace, emotional peace are embedded in that. So, like Sadananda More also in one of his articles says that Ambedkar was definitely having a spiritual inclination. Spiritual in this sense, spiritual not in the transcendental sense, spiritual in the worldly sense. So what Buddha has taught us, according to him, is the source of misery. Now, the source of misery is also very interestingly reinterpreted by Ambedkar, and he said the social conflict is the source of misery. It cannot be your life, death, old age, your disease and everything. That cannot be. That is a wrong interpretation. That is a wrong message. So conflict of so therefore he says that Buddha can answer the questions of Marx. Marx talks about the conflict, and he wanted to get rid of the social conflict, and then he thought that class conflict is the real source of the miseries. But Ambedkar says that Gautam Buddha had already, my 45 minutes are over. If you are bored, I can stop here. So source of misery is like the social conflict. Then Buddha has talked to us that be open to the reason, and ahimsa should be followed as a principle, not as a rigid rule. Ambedkar has not accepted ahimsa to an extreme level like Jaina philosophy is accepting, and he has given the path where you can give up ahimsa and the limits of ahimsa, liberty, equality and fraternity. But one should understand that in Marxism, and he has mentioned Marx or Buddha, that Marx supports the violence, and that violence for the betterment of the society. Ambedkar is not ready to support violence for that purpose. That is what he's deviating himself away from the Marx. Then man and morality is the central. That is what Buddha has taught to us. Righteous kingdom is what the entire society. And that is ideal society. That is the idea of ideal society. That is the dream society of Dr. Ambedkar, where righteous kingdom is there. On poverty and wealth, poverty causes sorrow. According to Buddha, this is what Ambedkar says, and one should understand this very carefully. Wealth is acceptable. Wealth should not be given up. Buddha advocates acquiring wealth. Okay? But not high standard of living, but high standard of culture gives happiness. Accumulating the wealth not in a capitalist way. In the righteous kingdom, if you really want to have a happy life, you need somewhere. But not you should run behind the wealth, and not you should grab the wealth. And not an opinion. Buddhism is grounded in real life. Unlike Christianity, it cannot be charged with making people passively accept poverty or suffering. So, on the one hand, if Ambedkar is criticizing Nischay, that means he is criticizing the Superman's ethics. So, what is an alternative, necessarily logical alternative, is herd morality. This is what Nischay says. The Christian morality is a herd morality, kadak mansikta hai. So, but Ambedkar is also critical about this herd morality. Okay? He is not saying that you should accept poverty. This is a part of herd morality. You should accept suffering. He always says that you should fight against poverty. You should fight against suffering. That is what the message of Gautam Buddha. Now, I have given another very important, because the morality is very much associated with the religion. But I will not read all the slides. I will quickly finish it. If at all we want to understand the moral stance Phule's moral stand, because it's a part of philosophy of religion. What is their moral stand? And if you really want to understand the moral stance of Dr. Ambedkar, then deontology can be a perfect title, closer to perfection, I will not say perfect title, but closer to perfection of the moral understanding of Mahatma Phule. And utilitarianism, some people like Scott Stout and all those are claiming that it's a pragmatism. But if Ambedkar is continuously referring J.S. Mill, then J.S. Mill has used the notion of utilitarianism. And other J.S. Peirce and all those people have talked about, C.S. Peirce and all those have talked about pragmatism. So Ambedkar's moral stand is closer to the utilitarianism. Why Phule's idea is closer to the deontology? I really like that word when I read it, and I said that if I have not read it so far. That is in Marathi, I have translated it in English. That treat others as you wish others to treat you. It's a simple formula of judging whether your action is right or wrong. It's a simple formula. You have to develop a software, or you have to develop a process in your mind while doing any action, which will test your action on this maxim. Treat others as you wish others to treat you. This is a formalism. There are two ways of developing moral theory. One is a formalism, and another is giving directly rules for the judging of your action. So formalism is the idea that has been used by Immanuel Kant. Like if you are, so it's a universalizable principle. Like the idea that moral action must be the one who can will to become universal law. So this is the very important idea of morality. It's a highly philosophically loaded idea of morality. It has never explored at the university level because we still think that the real academic rigor is involved only in European or Western universities. But we have ignored these important tenets. It's as equal as we don't need Kant at all, Immanuel Kant, in order to talk about the morality. We need to ponder upon Mahatma Phule's idea of morality. Escape, and then Dr. Ambedkar's moral philosophy, utilitarian foundation. Morality is practical according to him. He has shown that there is an evolutionary origin of morality, like justice and utility has evolved. He has very nicely argued that whatever is not usable, whatever is not performing, never existed. We have experimented. Human beings have experimented in various things, but whichever is usable only sustain. And therefore he says that utility should be considered as a wisdom of human being. And therefore he has used that criteria, and he has accepted that as a moral principle, and justice, equality, fraternity, and liberty. This is the figure that not I have created it. It is an artificial intelligence who have given this figure to me. Utility and justice, collective good. Utility means maximization of the maximum happiness of the maximum people. That is what the Bentham defined the notion of utility, Jeremy Bentham. Then justice, equal right, liberty, protect rights and liberty. So holistic society, individualistic society. I see, anybody has a different metaphor for understanding the idea of morality advocated by, these are two axes. One is individualistic axis and another is holistic axis. So utility is holistic axis. Utility for not me only. Utility for me might be non-utility for others. So utility should be understood in the context of entire society, and justice can be understood at the level of individual. We always talk about the notion of social justice according to Ambedkar, but that justice is delivered to the society, community sometimes, but maximum time to an individual. So this is Ambedkar's philosophy is not advocating individualism either or holism either. He is advocating individualism and holism collectively. That is what we in sociology and in philosophy of social philosophy, we talk about the individualism and holism. Whereas you will find Plato and Marx have advocated holism, Hegel advocated holism, and other people have advocated individualism. But both the models are not really perfect. Combination of both is required, and that is what advocated by Ambedkar. Let us not go into that. Then karma, fraternity, and utility. So that is we have already talked about that. Yeah, I wanted to come to now. I have also given the comparison between Phule's 33 principles, which he has talked about in Sarvajanik Satyadharma, I think, and Ambedkar's 22 vows, which he is talking about in Buddha and his Dhamma. We can have a comparison between both also, and you will find a different picture. But I'll not go to that detail. So why we find a little difference, and what type of a difference we should understand, that Phule was advocating peasants and Sudras and Ansutrats. Okay, that therefore he has brought out many protests of the farmers and peasants and barbers. We know that is what Phule did, and it addressed autonomous moral agents capable of constructing truth through unaided reason and conscience. Whereas Dr. Ambedkar has advocated neo-Buddhist converting from Hinduism, especially ex-untouchables making a public, irreversible break with their old path and entering into new civilizational identity. Though his focus is on untouchables, but that is universalizable ideal, and that might lead to an ideal type of society. Conception of God is, Phule has given a model of religion which is theistic, monotheistic. Ambedkar has given a model of religion which is atheistic, which is purely based upon morality. Whereas in Phule, you will find morality is also there, but he has given importance to the existence of Nirmika. Linderle says that it is as equal as agnostic, whether God exists or not. That position is adopted by Phule, but he talks about the Nirmika, so there is no harm in talking, theistic morality. It's absolutely secular theism. Then the diagnosis of the caste is a Brahmanical conspiracy according to Phule, and according to Ambedkar, it is a social psychological structure denying the Buddha's core teaching of equality. Then remedy for the caste, according to Phule, is, there are many remedies, but in nutshell, universal primary education, critical reason, and new civic religion, Satyashutak Samaj, striped of caste distinction. Whereas Ambedkar says that the mass conversion out of Hinduism, a complete civilizational exists, because otherwise we will have to struggle within that. And about 17 pledges to promote equality, about 20 pledges to live for the Dhamma. And then the many other. So rational monotheism is what, in a way, Phule is advocating, and engaged Buddhism is what Ambedkar is advocating. And both models are for the betterment of whether disagree philosophy pursued. Ambedkar ritual vows commit through the public act, and then Phule monotheistic rationalism, Ambedkar Buddhist ethics and community and Sangha ethics also is advocated by Ambedkar. Then Phule talks about the agrarian economic protest, Ambedkar talks about religious and civilizational transformation. But Ambedkar also have, he's one of the theses is on the problem of rupee. So he has also a very different and wide economical understanding. Then I'll finish this second last slide. So what are the convergences and divergences? We need to make this very academically stereotypical comparison, which doesn't have real social value asset, but just exercise. So convergences, like, both are product of modernity. This is my claim, because I think in Engaged Buddhism that author has mentioned the postmodern ethics and everything, but I think that they are modern. And many times Gopal Guru also talked that we still need modernity. West might not need modernity, but we still need modernity. We are yet to explore all the benefits, social and political benefits of modernity. Social reform before political reform. You know that debate that happened in during the freedom struggle. Rejected divine authority and caste hierarchy. Both have prioritized reasons and evidence over scriptures. Okay, so they tried to take philosophy closer to the scientific and rational activity. Liberty, equality, fraternity are core values, no doubt on that. Religion must serve the weak and oppressed. Okay, then both wrote their alternative vision near end of the life. Both posthumously published it, and that's sad part of it. That Sarvajanik Satyadharma was written by left hand, because he was paralyzed. Phule was paralyzed and his right hand was not working. Same thing happened with, not the same health problem, but Dr. Ambedkar was suffering from many health issues, and in that period he wrote Buddha and his Dharma. He died before publishing of the Buddha and his Dharma. So both Sarvajanik Satya Dharma, these are the very important constructive canons, and the fate of both the canon that their author died before their birth. That's interesting similarity. Both targeted historical similarity, we'll say. Both targeted Brahmanic dominance using critical methodology. Phule retained God, Ambedkar rejected God entirely. These are the divergences. Phule monotheistic foundation, Ambedkar atheistic, materialistic foundation and scientific foundation to some extent. Phule built counter mythology, Ambedkar rejected all mythology. Rather, Ambedkar used philosophy only. He never adopted counter philosophy as such. He said, I'll pick up the mainstream philosophy and I'll expose everything. He has also said that I'll use the real definition of dharma. What is it? Dharayati iti dharma. He said, let us exercise that. Whether that parameter is really adopted in the Hinduism or not, he has picked up the mainstream and he has really shown the contradictions of the mainstream evils. Phule built counter methodology. Ambedkar rejected all methodology. Phule's approach was mythological. Ambedkar's approach was purely philosophical and anthropological, I would say. Phule reclaimed folk religion. Ambedkar chose a universal historical religion. Phule advocated priest-free religion. Ambedkar, no religion need any priest or God. Phule's method was mythological, anthropological. Ambedkar's method was normative science. So that definition is there, but we'll discuss that later on. Phule talked about Nirmika, ground for equality. Ambedkar talked human essence as ground for equality. And now coming to the conclusion, both Phule and Ambedkar present the highest tradition of critical philosophy applied to religion. When Phule used mythology itself as a weapon of liberation, Ambedkar used a sword of reason to reject myth altogether. Both arrived at some destination, a world built on liberty, equality and fraternity, but via different paths. Together they remain the two greatest architects of a philosophy of religion rooted in human dignity. Phule's legacy was universal religion of truth, Satya Dharma, Sarvajanik, public religion of truth, I would say. God as the equal parent of all, no priest, no scripture as authority, liberation through recovered history. Ambedkar's legacy was Buddhism as a living Dhamma, liberty, equality, fraternity as religious practice, misery as social problem requiring moral solution. Because traditional notion of misery is totally different, and he says that we should explore the source of misery in the social conflict. So both shared legacy that both proved religion is not above critique. Any religion must pass the test of utility and justice to be worthy of human allegiance. Religion that falls the test of liberty, equality, fraternity deserves to be rejected. This is what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says, and I end up my little lengthy presentation. Hope I have not bored you, but I tried to make it more philosophical. Therefore, I have used some philosophical jargon, you would say, but that is requirement of the current academic scenario, and how academicians address the issues of Phule and Ambedkar's philosophy is very important, and I think that we are very poor on that front, and we need to develop more and more rigor to develop this paradigm. This paradigm is still waiting for the scholars, and can deal with it. But before ending, I would again go to Lakshman Shastri Joshi, Tarkatirtha Lakshman Shastri Joshi's preface of the first edition of collected work of Mahatma Phule. There he says that what happened during that time only, it was happening, I think, Brahmanetar Chaubar. He said he missed the real philosophical moral foundation that has advocated by Mahatma Phule, and it led to extreme casteism. And I personally believe the same repercussion we are facing in political scenario, not in social, but in political scenario, the same Brahmanetar Chaubar, division of caste is being implemented. We are going away from eradication of the caste. So we should understand the full truth, not half truth. We should not merely understand Gulamgiri. We should not merely understand philosophy of Hinduism, but simultaneously, if you really want to have access to full truth, we should also understand Sarvajanik Satya Dharma and its philosophy, and Buddha and his Dhamma and its philosophy. Thank you very much for your question.